Okay, it's going. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, anyway, I'm a volunteer for the National Park Service.
Okay.
So I'm taking Sandra, right?
Yes, just
to
me.
the Lincoln home.
Because nobody else showed up.
She signed up for the exclusive tour today.
did.
And how much did you pay for it?
Nothing.
That's right, it's free. And
It's
there's
free.
a reason for that.
Yeah.
Because when Sorry, so I have to kind of keep track of what's going on.
Okay. So these are blocked off, obviously.
All these homes are Lincoln era homes. We've
Okay.
restored the exteriors to look like they did when the Lincolns lived here.
And nobody lives in them. They're
National
all
Park Service
National
personnel.
Park Service.
And I'm going to quickly check to see if this woman
Sure.
is on our tour. I don't think so, but I
Sure.
want to double check.
Okay, so I got an exclusive tour. Okay.
Just
I'm
don't
still
lean up
rolling.
against the walls and the woodwork.
Don't lean up against the, okay, got it.
And of course, they'll find out that you can take videos inside the home because we already talked about
This
that.
is this is the first time I've ever had this in a place like this.
Quaker brown and shutter green are the actual colors.
Okay.
They had added the retaining wall and the fence. It was always on a rise, so we're heading into the home. Notice the name on the door?
Uh-huh.
No numbers. So
Oh,
put
they
your
just had
name.
names back then?
Yep.
Not numbers? Interesting. Well, yeah, I'm sure that there were.
We're gonna go to the left.
So is all this original furniture, or is it just what they?
We have over
period?
50 pieces of furniture that are actual Lincoln pieces.
Wow.
If they aren't Lincoln pieces, they are period pieces.
Right.
So we start our tour in the parlor of the house,
Okay.
where Mary could show off her style of decorating, okay? In each room, we have these drawings.
Okay.
This is what an artist saw
Okay.
when the artist came into the house when the Lincolns lived there. So this is what the Lincoln rooms look like through the eyes of the artist.
Okay.
Published in a national newspaper back then.
Okay.
Used by the National Park Service the last time the home was restored. We knew where to hang pictures on the wall, how to hang the pictures
Look at
on
that.
the wall.
And did you know what they were, or you?
No, we don't. But, because you can't tell, right?
Right.
But there's a reason we have George Washington and his wife Martha up there. It was, typical of the time period to hang pictures on the wall of people you admired.
Okay.
We know Lincoln admired George Washington, so that's why we have him up there.
Got it.
In most of the house, the carpet and the wallpaper you see, typical of the time period, we don't know exactly the pattern.
Okay.
Upstairs, we do in a couple rooms, and I'll talk about that.
Okay.
All the furniture you see in the parlor in black upholstery, the Lincolns owned. They owned the table at the front. They called that a whatnot shelf back there, same one in the drawing. And in the back part of the parlor, candlestick holders they owned, and the big secretary they owned right over here. We just walked by these black walnut partition doors.
Okay.
Many times they'd have them closed. The front room, Mary's area, the back room, Mr. Lincoln's home office.
Oh, I see. They would close. Yeah, obviously, they wouldn't have this here, but yeah,
Yeah,
so they would close
that's
this
right.
off and make it 2 rooms. Nice.
Right. When the Lincolns first moved in, they had 2 front rooms, kitchen in the back, like a T. So it's smaller when they first moved here in 1844.
Okay.
And by the way, this is the only home Abraham Lincoln ever owned, this one right here.
Owned.
Okay?
Yeah, not lived in, but
Correct.
owned.
New
Yeah.
Salem, you said you were going to go to. He lived in places out there, log cabins, and
Right,
stuff.
right.
But this is the only home he ever
He
owned.
Okay.
This was the first major addition to the home. It was not the back parlor initially, it was the master bedroom and nursery. 3 Lincoln boys were born in this home. So Robert, the oldest son, was born when they lived in a hotel when they first got married. 3 Lincoln boys were born here,
Okay.
all when this was the master bedroom and nursery.
Okay.
So this is probably where they were born. Tragically for the Lincolns, 1 boy died in the home, Eddie. Their second son died of tuberculosis. He's sick for 52 days. I'm thinking some of the time he's being taken care of right here. His funeral was in the front parlor, right here. This back parlor room is the room that on the evening of May 19th, 1860, Mr. Lincoln is formally notified that he's been selected to be the Republican nominee for president. So The convention was held in Chicago. He knows what's going on. He's following what's going on. He's got lawyer friends working to get him votes up in Chicago. But it was not the practice back, but it's a surprise when he wins on the third ballot. He's not the favorite candidate. But now, candidates, if they win, they give an acceptance speech. At the convention, it's not what happened back then. Delegation was sent to formally notify them. So that's what happens on the evening of May 19th, 1860. This is where Lincoln's formally notified. And when he's asked, will you accept our nomination, he says he's very humbled by their offer. He's aware of the responsibility as well as the honor that comes with it. And he says he will let them know his answer in a few days. So he doesn't say yes or no that night, but 4 days later in writing, he accepted the nomination.
Wow.
But in many senses, Lincoln's formal road to the White House started right here. That-
Yeah, he knew what it meant, and he had to really think about it.
And some people thought, he wanted to talk it over with Mary.
Yeah.
This wooden piece right up against the wall is his boot jack. He used it to put on and take off his boots.
Okay.
Coat rack, a Lincoln piece, the chair, and the doorbell, all Lincoln pieces. Dining room table is the actual table they had. The game table in the corner is theirs. The cake platter and stand are Mary's. The cake, obviously, not original.
Yeah, that would be
Bad, if
Yeah,
it
would be
were,
pretty bad.
yes.
It'd be petrifying.
And the pickle dish on the buffet up there is a Lincoln piece. Now, across the dining room is the kitchen. We're gonna end up in the kitchen at the end of our tour because we'll be going up to the bedrooms and there's a back stairwell. We're gonna come down at the end.
What's so nice about him being so famous is that they did save his pieces, because usually people in history, you don't have the original pieces, but with him, I'm sure they were like, oh, no, he's,
Well, we would have more probably. So they stored some furniture across the street. They sold some furniture as well.
Okay.
Now, the Tilton family, who rented the house from the Lincolns when the Lincolns left, they bought some of the furniture. And we probably would have more furniture, except the Tiltons moved to Chicago in 1869, taking at least some of the pieces they bought with them. The problem for us with that story is that they're living in Chicago in 1871, when what happens?
Oh,
the
the
Chicago
fire.
fire destroyed their home and any furniture they had taken. So we only have one Lincoln bed that they owned, and I think that's one reason why.
Yeah.
Now, in the sitting room here, the sewing table is theirs, the mirror, same mirror, and one other thing that they owned is on the desk, or the table there. It's called a stereoscope. You put photographic plates inside.
Oh, this thing right
that
here.
box.
Okay.
And you see the eye holes?
Yes.
The Lincoln boys would have been excited looking in there, and the picture's like three-dimensional.
Yeah.
I tell our grade school kids it's the Xbox
gonna
entertainment
say,
system
it
of
was
the
like
1850s.
It was like the gamers of today.
Yeah. Remember the things called, I don't know, you remember
Yes.
things called Viewmasters?
Yes.
It's the precursor.
I
to
grew
the
up with those.
Viewmaster. Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
I am that old.
Well, some people go, oh, I know, my parents had that, or my grandparents.
I know. And I'm like, no, that was me. I had those.
Now, I
was
mentioned the
pre-internet.
doorbell, and the hat is old, but not Lincoln's.
Okay.
But here's something else that is. Why don't you hang on to the railing as we go up the stairs?
Hang on, okay.
Mr. Lincoln touched this all the time. It's as close as we come to shaking the hand of
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln.
Awesome.
So it's the real thing.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Mr. Lincoln.
Yes. We made it more sturdy. The guest bedroom is over to the left.
Yeah. Wow, this is nice.
Every dresser upstairs, no matter the bedroom, the Lincolns owned.
Okay.
They owned the spaining couch in the guest bedroom. And this, they called it a sleigh bed because of its style. This is the only bed we have the Lincolns actually owned.
This one here.
No, this the bed.
Oh, this one here.
But the fainting couch, that's the fainting
the sleigh
couch.
bed. Yeah, it looks like a sleigh. Boy, this is better than my
I mean, it's a good size, isn't it?
This
Look
is
at-
nicer than the Airbnb I'm in.
Oh,
Which is nice.
you're staying in Airbnb?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's so much cheaper and better
Yeah.
than hotels.
I've been on and I've looked at Springfield locations for Airbnb just to see what's being offered, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And you don't know the exact location, but you can kind of tell. you know.
Yeah. No, the lady I'm staying with is really
Well, great.
nice. She's got a great house.
Mary did a lot of sewing here. We know that because under the boards, we found a bunch of sewing needles.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
this, excuse me, 1 second. This is Mr. Lincoln's room. That's Mary Lincoln's room. So, and we'll be walking through that.
Okay.
So they shared the master bedroom when it was downstairs, but when they built the full second story, they built an effective bedroom suite. This was the style, if you could afford it.
Okay.
Now in these two rooms, the wallpaper pattern you see is the exact pattern Mary picked out. So
Okay.
this is a reproduction,
Okay.
but this is the exact pattern.
Very pretty.
And in the visitor center, next to Theater 2, there's a big piece of the original wallpaper.
Oh, okay.
And it's dirty. I mean, you can just imagine the years of smoke, and
Sure.
then they put lacquer on. I mean, it's, you know.
It's bad, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a little
But
piece
this is
that
what
they
it
cleaned
would-
up. But this is what it would
What it
have
would
looked
look like.
Yes.
I think I'd rather just see this one
Yeah,
because it's
okay.
probably much prettier.
The style with the wallpaper and the carpet together,
Right.
they called harmony through contrast. I see the contrast part. I'm still working on the harmony part on that myself.
Yeah, it's a little busy, but yeah.
And then you add the quilt pattern to it, and so you get a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on.
Wow, yeah.
The dresser, again, I mentioned all the dressers are Lincoln pieces.
Okay,
This nice wardrobe is a Lincoln piece.
okay.
And my favorite piece is right over here.
Oh, yeah, that little nice.
Mr. Lincoln's writing desk. He did work at that desk.
Wow,
He said it was the first desk he did business on once he moved to Springfield.
that's a really cool piece.
And on the wall up here, we have Henry Clay and Daniel Webster. Again, we don't know exactly what Lincoln would have had up there. They are two prominent senators of the Whig political party. Lincoln was a Whig before he became a Republican. He admired both of those senators. That's why we have them on the wall.
It's interesting how they hang them with the little.
Yeah, I know.
I wonder why.
Another thing about Henry Clay up there. Henry Clay and his family from Lexington, Kentucky. Mary Todd, the Todds from Lexington, Kentucky. Mr. Lincoln would have been really impressed when he met Mary
Okay.
that she knew Henry Clay.
Oh,
I mean, that would have really impressed him. Okay. And by the way, they met in Springfield, late 1839, at a party, and Mary told the story about how they met in effect this way. This guy walks up to her and says, "I'd like to dance with you in the worst way," and he did. That's how she
worst
told
way.
the story.
That's so funny.
Now imagine, so it's election day, November 6th, 1860. It's after midnight, but still that very night, results from New York State come in. He knows he's won the presidency, and he comes home and he says, and Mary's either in her bedroom or down in the sitting room we just left. He says, "Mary, we are elected. We're going to Washington." I think it's interesting. He says, "We are elected." All right. They don't leave Springfield till February 11th. Inauguration wasn't until March back then. Imagine the sleepless nights President-elect Abraham Lincoln had right here. Not his actual bed, but this is where it was.
Okay.
The sleepless nights he had as 7 southern states left the Union, seceded from the United States.
Because he was elected.
That's right.
Yeah.
And before he even left Springfield, they
Yeah.
left. Yeah, he was elected who was opposed to extension of slavery. You're right. That's exactly why they
No,
left.
I've studied that a lot,
Yeah.
and he was, yeah, he did not have a good time, did he?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you see all presidents, as you know, age in office when you have the pictures, you know, but his picture from when he when he goes in. And,
Oh, no, I know. At
and
the
then
end,
and when he's assassinated, he looks so old. He's 56 years old.
I know,
you
and he
know?
was in for how many years, and he looked like
Just over 4 years.
and he looked like he aged
Yeah.
40 years. I
Yes.
mean, it's crazy what it did to him.
Now, in Mary's room here, she brought the dresser with her from Kentucky, the rocker, the little footstool, all Lincoln pieces. And we have one other thing that's a Lincoln piece, her commode,
There we
right
go.
there.
That's what you call a private room with a bath.
There you
Well,
go.
not a
Yes.
bath, but a
Yeah, it's like an ensuite,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Well, Joe, this is 40604.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
We have to kind of be aware of what's going on, but at the same time, it kind of interrupts tours, you know.
Okay. No worries.
This is the boys' room.
Okay.
More specifically, this would have been the oldest son, Robert's room.
Okay.
Willie and Tad slept on a trundle bed that would pull out from under their moms.
Okay.
But now, we have the home restored back to 1860. So by this time, Robert has left the home, went to prep school, on to Harvard. Willie and Tad have taken over this room. And in the fall of 1860, we have stories about the boys going out that room. And if we were walking by, they probably were going to yell at us, Vote for old Abe, vote for Lincoln. So they were young Lincoln campaigners. Young
Oh, they would be
people.
yelling out the
There's
window.
a porch out there.
There's a porch out there.
Mhm.
Got it.
With a railing. Yeah, they didn't just drop right down.
Oh, okay.
So-
I thought maybe they just opened the window and
Yeah.
were yelling stuff. Like kids do.
Speaking of Robert, and I don't know, so speaking of Robert,
Mm-hmm.
when the Lincolns left to go to Washington, I mentioned they rent the house out.
Right,
Because I talked about the Tilton family.
right.
Well, Robert ends up owning this house and he rents it out too.
Okay.
But in 1887, he sold this home to the state of Illinois for $1. He put 2 conditions on the sale. The state had to maintain the home and the public had to be allowed to go through the home free of charge.
Wow.
So that's why your tickets
Were
was
free
free today
and not
because of
$1.
Robert.
No, thank you, Robert.
Yes. And you get your money's worth out of this tour, therefore, right?
Yeah,
You know?
because look at how many people I'm sharing it with.
Oh yeah, there we go, the exclusive tour. And by the way, kind of end our, not the end of the history of the home, but then the last owner is the National Park Service, who currently owns it, and they bought it from the state of Illinois in 1972. Hired girls' room. We know of what, up to 16, across the 17 years, one at a time. But these girls, typically mid to late teens, hired girls, not a slave. Okay, $1.50 a week, free room and board,
Sure.
Sundays off. Mr. Lincoln was away from home a lot. I mean, we're talking 40-50% of the year when he goes practicing law, riding
Right.
the circuit,
Right.
traveling, giving political speeches. Mary's job was to run the household, and she had paid help to do it. And by the way, because
Now-
you've lived in Portland, go
Yes.
ahead. Did you have a question? What's in here?
No,
Oh.
I forgot. Go ahead. I can't think now.
Because you lived in Oregon for a number of years.
Yes.
Mr. Lincoln spent 4 years in the state legislature.
Okay.
And then, a few years later, he spends 1 term in the U.S. House of Representatives. After that, he tried to get a political position. He wanted to be like land commissioner, and he didn't get that. But he was offered to be secretary and then governor of the Oregon Territory.
Offered, okay.
Offered, but he turned those down.
Oh.
I don't think Mary wanted to move out there. The territory was actually Democratic. He was a Whig, okay?
Yep.
But just imagine how American history might have been different
Yeah.
if he had accepted
Yeah.
those
It's still
political.
pretty much Democratic out there.
But just imagine, he might not have been president.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Interesting. So it's a good thing that she said no,
or at least he did.
or he said no,
Yeah,
based on
whatever.
her whatever.
And but so what he ended up doing is coming back to Springfield and really spending 5 years dedicated to practicing law. He's always involved in politics, though.
Right.
But Kansas-Nebraska Act is passed, gets him back into politics, and then, of course, what splits the Whig Party, the Republican Party starts, and he becomes a
okay.
Republican. So yeah, we can head down to the kitchen.
Okay.
These aren't the original railings.
I know. I'm very clumsy and I have a
No,
tendency
no,
to
but
fall
it
off
is,
the
it's
trip.
steep.
So I usually hang on to anything I can. See, if you were going first, you would break my fall. Kidding.
You know, for some reason here, we always follow the group over here. The group. See, you're the group.
Yeah, the group.
We could be a little bit more informal in this one.
So this is the kitchen.
They actually bought that stove in 1860. Mary did cook on it. There's a story that she wanted to take it to Washington with her, but she was convinced to leave it here. They probably had stoves in the White House already.
And I'm
okay?
sure it was
And-
pretty heavy.
Yeah, and it would, yeah, no kidding. The chair is a Lincoln piece as well. What a lot of us like to talk about here, though, is the size of this home. Now, include the back stairwell, but imagine a family of 8 people living in a 1-room log cabin, about the size of this kitchen. He's born in Kentucky, but when he's 7, family moves across the Ohio River to southern Indiana.
Okay.
There, his mother died. His father remarried a widow who had 3 kids of her own. So in this log cabin, you have Abraham, his sister Sarah, his father, his stepmom, who, by the way, he became very close with, okay? 3 stepbrothers and sisters and a cousin, all living in a 1-room log cabin about the size of this kitchen. That contrast shows us how far Mr. Lincoln came in his life. Growing up in those circumstances to owning this big, nice, comfortable home here in Springfield, 3,100 square feet, by the way.
Yeah.
Not a mansion, but a big, nice, comfortable
Well, 3,100
home.
square foot home is pretty big in today's
In
standards.
today's standards, it surely is.
And this is the size of the kitchen. This
yes,
is it.
this is it.
That's just Yeah, that's crazy. They didn't. I mean, in a lot of older homes, the kitchens are very small, and now it seems like the kitchen is one of the biggest
rooms.
in
So,
the house.
and on that topic, they would have had one kitchen, a room for one kitchen, and they would eat in the kitchen when they first moved in. But at some point during their restructuring and additions to the house, they added this wall to have a separate dining room and kitchen. So you're right. Today we take out walls. We
Right.
have great rooms,
Yep,
you know,
yep.
but they had, this was like more fancy, is to have a separate dining room and a kitchen.
And this is more European, especially in like the UK, where their homes are still very separated.
So, all right,
Yeah, I mean they're like this. You know, you have
Yeah.
a door to the kitchen and a door to the living room. And, you know, and it's not an open field.
Some of the Europeans are up there on my tour. You know, we talk about how some parts of this house date back to 1839 because
Yeah.
Reverend Charles Dresser, that's when he has the house built.
Yeah.
Lincoln buys it from him in 1844. But we talk about how old it is, and then I say to him, you know, but of course everything's relative because some of them
Yeah.
are living in houses that are 400 years old. And,
Exactly, and probably very much like this, very separated. You know, yeah, interesting how they do that.
So Mr. Lincoln people called him a self-made man. He was very proud of that. And Lincoln should deal with slavery, change, and evolve, okay? So when he runs for president, he's opposed the extension of slavery to the Western territories, but he doesn't think anything can be done about slavery where it already existed. Now, despite that, those 7 southern states left the Union before he even left Springfield, okay? But as president, talking about how his ideas change and evolve, the Civil War is always a war to save the Union, but by the time of his assassination, for President Lincoln, it has become a war to free the slaves as well.
Right.
We know him as the great emancipator.
Right.
3 times I've had 5 different countries of people represented on one tour, I think. That's the reason why, I
Yeah.
think. But one thing about Lincoln that never changed, I'm going to tie this back to the self-made man idea. The most frequent reason he gave for personally being opposed to slavery, which he always was, is that no one should have to work and be denied the fruits of their own labor. If one works, one should have the ability to, the opportunity to advance like
Yeah.
he had.
Yeah, interesting.
Most of the time he lived in this house, he didn't have a beard. Because a lot of us, we picture him with a beard.
Right, we do. Yeah.
Grace Bedell writes him, an 11-year-old girl, when he's running for office. You may know the story.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think she said something like, "I think you would look better."
Yeah,
unless
you'd
you
look a good deal better if you grew whiskers.
Grew a beard. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, I do remember that story.
End of the story, on the train from Springfield to Washington, Grace gets to meet President-elect Lincoln. The train stops in her hometown. She comes to the front, and he's grown his beard, and she gets to meet him.
Wow.
Pretty cool story.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Any questions?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
It's been a pleasure kicking you
Oh,
through.
thank you.
Then we head out to the backyard.
Okay.
Watch your step. Oh, we got the whole. They're doing some training and stuff. They say rainwater into a cistern,
Yep.
and they had a deeper well for drinking over there, and that was the pantry on the other side.
Okay.
This is just like a bad
Yeah, that's
weather
funny
cover.
that today people try to do this, and there are some states that have
You know,
really strict
people-
laws
that
about
you can't save the
you
rainwater.
can't.
Yeah.
And it's like
People told me that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we have rain barrels in Springfield, and
No,
you know,
I know.
and-
There are
yeah.
some states that are very strict, and they're saying no, you can't, because it impedes it going into the main systems for
Sure.
And I get that, but it's like, come on, it's rain. And
But that's where water is very precious too. I mean, we
Yeah.
have plenty of water here.
yeah,
so,
exactly. Where
you know,
water is precious.
That's not the original outhouse, but comes from a farm Lincoln visited.
Okay.
It's a 3-holer. You've never seen a 3-holer before. And
That's-
here, since you got, this is an actual picture of the home in 1865. So a
Okay.
few years after they left, around his assassination, but you can see how the picture, it looks very much like it does today.
Very much, yeah. Even this thing here.
Yeah, I know. Yep. So they've tried to do it as historically accurate as they could. The last time the National Park Service restored the home was 1987 to 88. It was closed for about a year, and a lot of structural reinforcements and that kind of stuff.
So this fence would not have been
It would have
here.
been here.
It
Yep.
would have been
Yes,
here.
it would have.
And it looked just like that.
Yes.
Interesting.
This big structure would not, there would have been like a buggy house and a woodshed. back
Okay,
here.
right.
There would have been houses next door, but by the time the Park Service bought the property,
Mm-hmm.
the old structures had gone by the wayside. So the National Park Service has restored all these other homes on 8th Street to
Right.
look like they did back then. I think we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
The brick building is the only exception.
Okay.
That's a newer building.
So, same color. It would have been this color.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's called Quaker Brown and Shutter Green.
You know, it's funny, you don't think about color back in the old days because everything was black and white. You don't
Yeah.
think about things
What
being
colors?
color.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, why isn't it black and white? You know, like you're used to.
Right, yeah. And I think, the colors on some of the other ones, they do their best to try to figure out what the colors were. I think I've heard the story, I believe, that they were doing some repairs on the roof or whatever, and they got down and they really saw the colors that
So
that
that's
the
how they
Lincolns
knew.
had it, that the colors of the house when the Lincolns lived here.
Nice.